Welcome to the Get Out Swim podcast, where we discuss all aspects of competitive swimming. I'm Seamus D. Quinn, and I'm a former Division I swimmer and current college and age group swim coach. Today, I'm joined by three of my former teammates from UMass Amherst, Chase Kent, Casey Ransford, and Michael Tartakovsky. This is what the podcast and the sport of swimming is all about. All four of us come from uniquely different backgrounds, experiences growing up with club and high school swimming, recruiting journeys to land at UMass, and yet we found ourselves in the fall of 2017, quickly connecting, bonding, and over time, fostering lifelong friendships with each other through our lived experience of being a UMass swimmer. There were many aspects to our over 2-hour-long conversation that I enjoyed, particularly the fact that we all bring different perspectives to our swimming, the events we raced, the training we endured, and the mentality it took for each of us to compete. Chase shares the perspective of being a seasoned distance swimmer. Throughout his time at UMass, Chase achieved numerous personal best times, including going sub 4 minutes in his 400 IM and posting a top 10 program time in the 1650 freestyle. Casey and I trained together as part of the middle distance group. A formidable butterflier, Casey posted top 5 finishes at the conference championship every year in the 200 butterfly, and at one point, he held the school record with a time of 1 minute and 47 seconds. Casey was also Team Rookie of the Year, 2-time Team MVP, and a 2-year captain for UMass. Mike shares the perspective of being a sprinter through and through. As he mentions in our conversation, Mike loves to race. By his junior year, he became our team's fastest sprint backstroker, and at the conference championships, helped his relay team set a school record by posting the fastest 50 backstroke time in school history. As already mentioned, we talked for over 2 hours, and no, this was not planned. I had so much fun talking to these guys, and by the end of our conversation, I found myself gaining a deeper appreciation for each of their journeys in swimming. So allow me to step aside, and without further ado, enjoy my conversation with former teammates, and most importantly, lifelong friends. Welcome to another episode of the Get Out Swim podcast. I'm your host, Seamus T. Quinn, and today I'm joined by the boys of North Maple. This is a boys reunion, I'm joined, in all seriousness, I'm joined by three of my best friends from UMass, three of my teammates, and just three of my housemates and people that I'm super excited to just sort of reconnect with through this podcast, share some of our favorite and I guess not so favorite stories from our time together at UMass. And just super excited to do this. So again, joining me today is Chase Kent, Casey Ransford, and Michael Tartakovsky. So gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. Yeah. And like I said, I'm excited, just super excited to do this because I have, had guests on so far that, a lot of them I haven't met, and I've learned a lot from them. And that's what I continue to plan to do, is just learn from people that I haven't met before in the swimming world, but then also be able to reconnect with, people like you guys who have meant a lot to me throughout my swim journey. And I think that's kind of the basis of our sport, is just building relationships, connecting with people, and ultimately just, having sort of lifelong friendships that we can sort of just foster and then also look back on and appreciate. So just again, excited to do this. So we'll start with this sort of, introductory question of just going around and sort of introducing just where you came from, where your hometown is, and then how you got involved in the sport of swimming. So Chase, I will start with you.
Yeah, so I'm Chase. I'm from Northville, Michigan, and I kind of got into swimming when I was 5, mainly through my brother. He's a couple years older than me, but he started swimming, and I got dragged along to the practices and eventually just decided to get in the water myself. So just kind of kept going with that until college.
Nice.
Yeah,
Casey.
I'd say same as Chase. I had 2 older brothers growing up, and I don't remember what age it was I started swimming, but my parents would bring me to the country club to watch them do their little practice, and then I just wanted to join in, so they let me join the team. I think pretty young, and it just happened from there. You get sucked in at 4 or 5 years old, and you look up and you're a senior in college.
Yeah. I'm Mike. I'm from North Rockland, 845, you know. I
845.
got into swimming because of, I guess my brother swam when he was in like high school for like a year, but I like played other sports, but never like was any good at it. You know, there here and there soccer, but But swimming kind of like stuck, and I don't know, put in a lot of time with it, and it was all right, but enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. So it seems like all three of you had some sort of older brother that was able to sort of, I don't know, at least inspire you, or at least sort of like follow in their footsteps to continue to pursue swimming. So that's pretty cool. I guess I was a trailblazer on my end. So my brother and sister didn't really have a choice, because then my mom became the coach and there was no option. But that's pretty cool. So Mike, you mentioned soccer. So I guess swimming aside, like, were there any other sports that you guys were interested in growing up, or that you tried, or that you were involved in? Just sort of growing up. So Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, growing up, it was mainly just soccer because it was just like something that I enjoyed watching a bunch, but I guess it didn't translate as much as I loved watching it to my skill on the field. But yeah, definitely soccer. But that was the main one. After swimming, different stuff, but then yeah.
Yeah, I guess I think growing up, I played just about anything I could. I really, to be honest, like middle school, even beginning of high school, I really did not want to swim in college. I played, I'm trying to think, like growing up, played basketball till like middle school and stuff. But it was like lacrosse, I remember, was the one I probably stuck with the longest. And I really thought I was going to go to college and play that. But I think it was just one of those things where I realized, like, I'm pretty good at this swimming thing. Like I'm much better at that than I am at anything else I've done. And there's some cool opportunities that are open, if I stick with this. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I mean, club swimming is a lot of work. So it's kind of it can be a lot, especially at a younger age, but you stick through it, you end up with some cool experiences, I think, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, I tried a lot of other sports too. I really did try in a lot of others, but I wasn't very good at any of them, except for I think the only one that I was semi decent at was like track. But I was kind of better at swimming than I was at track. So I think it was just I was always destined to be some sort of endurance type of person. So distance swimming really got to me early.
So Chase, when you ran track, were you also kind of tailored toward the distance events?
Yeah, definitely. I never formally like did track. I more so like ran like with my mom, because she like ran track all throughout like her childhood and stuff. So I would do it with her, and then it just kind of came to like clashing time, and I guess in terms of like doing that or swimming. So I kind of stuck with the evil I knew, being swimming, rather than trying something new.
Yeah. And then Mike and Casey, what positions did you guys play primarily in soccer and lacrosse?
I played right back when I played soccer, but mostly defending, trying to use my body.
Push a couple kids over.
I played butterflier in lacrosse, so it was an easy transition over to the. No, I played defense in lacrosse. Similar as Mike. I think there's like a lot of things like you draw on from swimming. Like I think it kind of like makes sense to be in like. There's a lot of discipline involved, right, with like the training, and I think being you kind of find your home on the defensive side of things, right? Like it's not as free form, right? It's kind of rigid. Like you got to do your job.
Right.
I think it kind of like translates well over, and the mindset was similar, I guess. Like you got to take care of your business to get the larger goal done. So
Get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. And that kind of leads me to my next question, just being like, when did you really find yourselves just committing to swimming, and like, what was it about swimming that led you all to want to, just continue to pursue at the collegiate level? Like Casey, you were kind of saying the, kind of like the mindset is transferable over to lacrosse and like some of the things you learned. So yeah, Casey, I'll start with you.
I think getting back to like what I was saying earlier, like I don't want to say I had like an aha moment, but it was something like where I was trying out for one of the travel lacrosse teams, super competitive in upstate New York, and didn't make it, right? So I didn't make the team, and it was kind of like oh crap, like, you know what I mean? You make a ton of excuses in your head, and I didn't like quit the sport right on the spot. I still went out, had one more year of fun playing JV ball, but it's like you're reflecting on it and you think about how many hours have I put in to like swimming versus all these other sports. And I mean, I'm sure Chase and Mike and you, Seamus, can relate to this, but like club swimming, you're putting in hours like at a young age. And I mean, like doubles starting in high school, right? And then, over the summer, I was doing 2-a-days, right? So I'm doing spending 15 hours a week training, doing meets on the weekends. Like, it was just kind of like, look at all this effort you've put in. It would really be a shame not to see it through. And then, I had 2 older brothers, right, in PJ swam in college. So I kind of got to see him take that next step. And it's a different atmosphere. You do new training in college, you lift, you have specialized coaches, you have so much more. And I just saw the leaps and bounds he took and the experience he had. And I was like, why not? You know what I mean? Like it seems like it can go up, and you put in, like I said, you put in all that time, you put in all that investment. Like, why not see it through? So.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I think like the time commitment of it, like really was probably like the more so the committal thing, like for me is being like, why not see this through? And similarly, like with my like club and my background, I guess, in terms of swimming, also I feel like with distance, like I wasn't really part of like much of like a team, I guess, to say, like in terms of like who I was training with and stuff. The next guy like was like near me, and he was like 4 years younger than me, that was like training distance. So I was like really excited to try it out in college and kind of have more of like the team atmosphere to it, because it just felt like so distant and distance. Even like in my races and stuff, where they're like 30 seconds plus like between people, it's not like close races and like super competitive like atmosphere. So I was kind of excited to try that out in college.
Yeah, I guess I really saw a switch when I think I was like 14 or so, maybe 13 or 14 or so. But definitely, as you guys were saying, just putting in that much time into it and not seeing it through would just seem like a waste, But it's one of those things that I'm really happy that I did, even though like I didn't enjoy training all the time, and especially I'm a sprinter. Like there's things that I don't want to do. I don't want to do a 7,000 yard practice, but after you do it, and after like it's been 2 years since I've been out of swimming, maybe even more. I think it's like 3 now, but I reflect back to that time and actually, not giving up on those really, challenging practices and being like, oh, these coaches might have actually been looking out for me in the grand scheme of things, because the life lessons that I learned on the pool deck it makes things a lot easier and puts things into like bigger perspective on a day-to-day, even work basis. So,
Mike, to your last point there, I think the skills that we learn in swimming are super transferable to life. I've said this before, but my mom always says that swimming is a metaphor for life. And I think that's very true. And it's interesting because as I am sort of more self-aware as sort of like an age group coach now, I definitely, try and make sure that while, the age group swimmers that are especially starting when they're like 6, 7, 8 years old are working hard, they're also like having fun, because I think that, like you guys have said, you put in so many hours as a club swimmer, and like to just go through the day-to-day grind from such a young age and then like push out all the way towards a collegiate swimmer, like it I don't know, it sometimes takes that love of swimming out of it. And I think that's what we end up often seeing. Not often, but in definitely several cases. And so I try and keep that in the back of my mind, like, whereas now, yes, like working hard is an inevitable part of swimming, but at the same time, you want to mix in like some sort of fun, whether that's playing or different sort of creative things that you can implement within your training cycle to like just spice things up for the swimmers that again are especially like going through it at such a young age. Because jumping in a pool every day and just swimming in a 25-yard pool, like depending on especially where you're swimming and kind of what lane space you have and everything, all those variables, like, the love can be carried through all the way to want to be a collegiate swimmer and be like super prideful about it, but it could also very quickly just diminish over time. And I think that that's like sort of the sad thing that we just see often, like with the intensity of our sport. But that's really cool that, I think that we all ended up finding like our own path towards wanting to swim in college. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to hear all of your experiences. I want to touch on a bit of our high school swimming experiences. So especially for myself, Mike, and Casey, we all grew up in the state of New York. And so we were all New York State high school swimmers, each swimming for, different parts of New York, but still kind of coming together at the New York State Championship at the end of the high school season. And, we didn't know it at the time, but our senior season, we were quite literally all in the same A final together in the 100-yard backstroke. So, I was over in the outside lane. Mike was right next. Actually, Mike was in the outside lane. I was like one lane in from him, and then Casey was on the other side of the pool. But it's really cool because, again, we were all in that A final, and Casey was the only one who was committed to UMass at the time. But, soon after that, Mike and I both had committed. So I just wanted to ask, like, when you look back at those high school swim years, just what stands out about that experience that just made those seasons so special? Because I know that for each of you, you have like spoke pretty highly about your high school experience, and certainly like that was the case for me too. So Casey, I will start with you.
I'm not going to say it, but we're all thinking it. But my team in high school had a long tradition of winning, which was very cool to be a part of. Maybe I took it a little too far at times, but needless to say, like it was something that like I got to watch. So my oldest brother Shay, from the time he was in 8th grade, and actually I got to be on the team with him when I was in 8th grade. But like there was a Ransford on the team for like 8 or 9 years straight, I think. And our team, like I said, a long history of winning. Actually, at this time now, we've won our league championship 21 straight years on the men's side. The women actually just won their 22nd consecutive title. So shout out to the Pittsburgh swimming, as they call themselves. But like I said, the town, just for whatever reason, and not for whatever reason, I could get into why, but it was, like I said, it was something cool and something infectious to be a part of. It made you take it seriously. And like, let's be real. I mean, it's swimming, right? Like you don't see a lot of people getting up for swimming, and that's not to say it's not cool, but like it was something where like people in the area, like if you had on a Pittsburgh swimming shirt or whatever, like they knew like, oh, that team's really good. Like you guys win all the time. Like I don't know. Like I said, it was just something kind of wild to be a part of, and I think the traditions that were had, passed down was something kind of, again, cool to be a part of, but like kind of set me up well for when we got to UMass, where it was like, yeah, you have all the things that the team does. And so like I was well indoctrinated with that sort of stuff, even if I wasn't always ready to go along with it. But yeah, I would just say it was really cool and like helped me to hold myself to a higher standard, to a fault at times, but definitely something wild. And yeah, I remember that 100 back final. I remember I was really sad because I didn't go the time I wanted to go in the 100 fly, and I kind of went into that race with just like, I just want to have fun. I wasn't like planning on being a backstroker in college or anything. I don't know. I tried to get the school record in prelims. I think I did, and at finals I was just like, well, this is like my last solo race. Like, let's just go for it. I think I got 10th out of 10, but I think I was still like 51 or something, which, little something for the kid. But no, I think it was cool, right? Because Mike did real well. I remember Seamus, you did real well. It's cool looking back, seeing we're all in the same heat, but yeah, I wish I had hung with you guys.
Yeah, high school swimming, probably some of my most fond memories. Like I still look back to it. Like I know a lot of people talk about, I guess, club swimming a lot. I was, passive with it. Like I'd spend my time there, and obviously I'd swim there. But most of my relationships that were bonded through swimming at that early age was, I would say, morally from my high school, just because I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but getting up for a race when you're representing like your school, like the people, like you're in your own building, like you don't want to lose this. They're like, it's a different feeling. Like even when you get to like college, you feel it at even a bigger level. But I don't know. That's I thought high school swimming was like peak electricity. Sometimes like going into Eisenhower or pulling up to in Buffalo, like the feelings were. It might have not just felt that way to like a lot of people, but it was electric. Like I remember even coming into Webster. My first year, like Justin Palashka blew up like the sport. Like your brother like killed it. Like it's some of the greatest racing I've ever seen. That just from like, I think that kind of like sucked me into high school swimming. I'm just seeing like, I've never like just like the eruption of a place, and you're like, dang, I'd like to be in that position like one day. And like you see like 4 years down the line, all of us are in the same heat. And you're like, wow, like you feel it. So high school swimming was awesome. Yeah, that's all I can really say.
I remember at that Webster state meet you're talking about, Mike, Plashko was because it was like because Peach was good, obviously. Jack, what was
Patrick
Connaughton, who went to Junior Olympics in Notre Dame. Jack, the guy who went to Harvard.
Ryan. There was Ryan Nicholson.
Ryan Nicholson
who
went
was
to
the
Duke.
butterflier.
Right. Plashko went to Notre Dame.
Ryan Gordon.
Ryan Gordon went to Indiana. How could we forget?
And then I know who you're talking about. There was another distance. Wasn't there another distance guy?
The other distance guy. I can't remember his last name. Nicest kid in the world. Yeah, he went to Harvard and he was a dog. But I remember Plashko was going for like 4 state records at that meet. So he led off the 2 free relay because he wasn't swimming the 50, I want to say. And he went out. I can't remember what time he was trying to go, but he went out in like 19, whatever. It was insane. And he just missed a state record. And the whole pool just was like, ooh. And it was like this unreal atmosphere. And then, that meet was nuts. I think almost every single state record went down that year. I could talk about that meet because there's so many memories from that one meet alone. And I didn't even do that well. I think my final in one race. Like I got the D final or something, but oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I think that was my first like high school season. I only think I was an alternate, but that meet was just, like you said, Mike, it was electric. And I think being able to be a part of those meets, like, years down the line, and I would say be a part in the sense where like now you're stepping up and you're scoring and you're in those like, B finals, A finals where the pressure is at its most. Like, that's when, all that work put into throughout, the sport and the season is like worth it, because then you're like representing, your high school at the biggest stage amongst like the biggest competitors in New York. And it's just like electric. Like I remember the senior year high school state championship meet at Eisenhower, again, like when I was in the heat with you guys or in some of the other races and the relays, like it was just like the culmination of like all the age group and also high school swimming that I had done up to that point. And it was just like, just electric. Like that's the word for it. So I think those high school swimming years like really set us up well for just embracing those moments when it came to UMass too. Because like you said, it's kind of just magnified even more there, just like, even on a bigger stage, different, but like just on a bigger stage. And Chase, we kind of left you out here because us New Yorkers are talking about our high school experience, but did you have any sort of high school experience swimming in Michigan, or did you mostly just stick with your club team?
I was entirely club. I didn't do high school like at all, but I was like pretty jealous, I feel like, of the experience, especially like getting to know you guys and like talking about it. Cause like, I mean, even just you guys talking about it, like I could feel like the electricity like from it. And I just feel like even like despite it being like a huge state, like it felt super connected, which I think is like really cool in terms of high school swimming. But I mostly did club. You guys know me where I couldn't do anything below 500. So I would have been pretty worthless.
Oh god, no, they could have stuck you. They could have stuck you in the distance events.
The two free Chase.
The two free distance events there.
Gone down to a 2 free, and then who knows?
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, I think that's a good point though. What you said about just also New York State being like such a big state, but then at the same time, like us, just crossing paths and being able to. Just like share the same experience when it came to the high school state meet. That is what made it so special to me. But all right, so transitioning now like to sort of the recruiting process. Just like talk me through the recruiting process. What was important for you all when looking at a school and a swim program, and just like ultimately what led you to land at making the decision to come to UMass? Because for all of us, that UMass is an out-of-state school, and obviously it's a big sort of state university. But just what was the sort of deciding factor there to ultimately land at UMass? So Chase, I'll start with you here.
Yeah, I think a huge factor for me was really like coaching staff. I like everywhere that I went, I was really trying to base the decision off of that, just since it was a huge part of like my 4 years, is having like the team and the coaches. Like I knew that I needed that. And after meeting Russ, I feel like I just like knew after that weekend, I knew that like with him being my coach and stuff, I was really going to get along and really like the coaching style. So I think that was like a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I think same deal where like the coaching staff was going to be big. But I think there were a couple, like I didn't want to be in New York anymore. Like I knew I wanted to get away from home at least a little bit. And I knew I wanted to be on a team that I could contribute to year one. Like I wanted to be able to like go to the conference meet, I didn't want, unfortunately, like UMass, that really wasn't too much of a problem. I think, at the most, maybe one or two guys got left off a few years there, but Russ liked to keep a pretty slim roster, which was, I think, smart on his part. Kept everybody involved, made everyone a contributor. But yeah, I'd say I remember I was ready to go to a different school. Actually, I had given them a verbal, and my mom was like, "You should check out UMass. You should check out UMass." And I looked up, the coaches online, and Russ is like an older guy. My club coach was an older guy. So I was like, I don't want to like deal with the same stuff I've been dealing with. Like I want something new. But sure enough, I give Russ a call, we talk on the phone, and I'm like, I gotta meet this man. And I remember my mom and I, like, we drove up, I think I had a Sunday, Monday visit. And so we drove up like Saturday night. And like first thing on Sunday, we went into his office and we were talking to him, and I was like, this guy is just, his attitude was infectious. And, it was just one of those things where I was like, okay. And you see the rest of school, it had that big school, state school feel, like you said, Seamus, without being without being this massive school, like everything felt accessible at the same time. And then ultimately getting to meet the guys, I think swung me a little bit as well. Like those visits are really important. And it was an interesting visit. I will say that a Sunday, Monday visit is kind of weird, but it was fun. Got to meet some personalities like Dana right off the bat there. Dana Lumber and Connor Patterson was interesting. And I think I stayed with Rizzo and Kyle. So that was, I got to meet all the characters. And I think that I was like, this is home. I was ready to commit after that trip.
I was kind of like a late bloomer. It wasn't until that like last meet that I was really getting any kind of looks or anything like that. I had maybe one or two visits beforehand, but nothing that I was really serious about. And then I got a few emails from Russ, and I talked to him on the phone. It's hard to beat Russ's charisma. It's like a weird charisma too. It's like dopey, but in a good way. And it's like he sold me. It was like it's like a telemarketer calling you on the phone, and he's just saying all the right things, and I'm like nodding my head. I'm like, all right, this guy knows what I want. And so I went up for a day visit. I met him in person. Infectious. That's all I could really say. I met Dana. He showed me around. That was fun. Then I had food with Rizzo. He just two really good guys to, show me around, because it's like, it's personalities that like I enjoy being around. So They definitely sold me on the school really well. Again, we have the best food in the country. That's going to sell. So it was just, it just made sense. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be outside of the state, just like Casey said, but again, I have like overbearing mother that won't let me go too far. So, Vika's going to know. So
yeah. Seamus, you should talk about your recruiting journey, because you definitely had the most unique of anybody that I know, for sure. Because I mean, well, I don't want to spoil it, but you should definitely talk about it, because you had a cool path to get to UMass as well.
Sure. Yeah. I would. Yeah. So I was primarily looking at just Division I schools. I went on 3 visits, and of those 3 visits, I committed to University of Buffalo. So I was all set to go to University of Buffalo. I had some friends on the team, including Luke Gordon, who we swam with at UMass, and then my teammate Hudson Carroll, who was another backstroker on the team. And so I just had really been sold on, being in state and sort of making, having it be affordable, but on also being on like a really good sort of Division I mid-major team where I could contribute. Long story short, we get to about April. I think it was literally had just been, it must have been April 2nd. And then we get an announcement saying that the University of Buffalo has cut their men's swimming and diving program, along with, I want to say, 3 other men's sports. And so, yes, it was like this, kind of WTF moment. Like, what are we doing here? And so, I didn't know what to think. I just started calling, the people that I knew on the team, started calling the coaches. And in fact, it was true. Like they had cut the team, and with all the petitions and all the phone calls to the athletic administration, none of that was going to work. Like it was set in stone. And so it was kind of like, okay, take a couple weeks to process this, be super upset about it. Quite honestly, like I was just sort of depressed, like laying in bed, didn't want to do anything, was just like, okay, this is just a huge, just a huge letdown, disappointment. And so from there, I just sort of was like, okay, well, I'm not going to take any time off. I don't want to take a gap semester. I don't want to take a gap year. And so, started looking around at like similar schools to what UB had to offer. And UMass was like one of those schools. And like you guys just said, Russ was the selling points, and was just, was personable, was funny, kind of like this eccentric, character of a coach. And I think that sold me. And then similar to Mike, I just went for a day visit. And similar to you guys, got to meet Dana, got to, meet Kellen, and I got to meet, I think, a few others, Kyle. And so all those guys, I was just like, wow, like I want to be a part of this team. Got to eat at the dining hall, experience the #1 food in the country. But it was great. And I just loved everything about it. So that was the sort of long journey to get to UMass, unexpected journey. But thanks for asking about that, because it was really like weird thinking back on that whole time. Like I remember just being like, just throwing that absolute curveball and then having to figure stuff out. And so, that was the journey to UMass, and just happy that it ended up working out that way. But so my question for you guys is like, we all ended up at a Division I school. Was Division I the only route that you all were looking at? Was it sort of like, Division I is the track that I'm looking at, and there are no like Division II, Division III schools in the pictures? That's kind of what I'm looking at. I guess Chase, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think primarily I was looking at D1, mainly because I was also like Casey looking for out of state like experience. I didn't want to just go somewhere in Michigan, so I kind of wanted the the financial aid like from it. So D1 was kind of, I feel like, major for that reason, but I didn't rule out D3. I took a trip to Conn College, really liked it there, but unfortunately, I think it was just, I think the D1 almost like culture and like financial aid of it was way too important to like pass up.
Yeah, I think I was mostly looking D1. I think it was a bit of an ego thing, to be honest. Like I knew I could do it, so like why not? And to be fair, like mid majors like the A10, Big East, Conference USA, like those types of school conferences, like the mid major is not. I don't think it's comparable necessarily to the Power 5. Like we'll have a kid every once in a while bust through and go to NCAAs, but very rarely. And then I think in the 4 years we were at UMass, maybe one or two guys went from GW, but so there's like this middle ground, I think, between like D2, D3, and the high level D1, where you, like Chase said, you can get rewarded financially for being good at swimming, right? And like have that, which as we talk about, you put in all this hours, like why not get a little something from it? And if it helps you get a better education, like why not use that? And so yeah, I think I was mostly looking D1, but it was ironically all three schools I was serious about were in the A10. So it just ended up wherever I was going to end up in the A10 one way or another. So
I think it's also important to note, like with D1, I think it's super important, like that where I was kind of looking for was those like mid-major conferences too, where I could actually make like a difference in. I didn't look at any schools that I was going to be more so like walk on, probably like Casey said too, like ego. But definitely just wanted to like actually matter in my team, and then also just still being in that like D1 area.
And I want to clarify, it's not a knock on like the D2,
D3
kids at all. Like there's some definitely, like, I think we were talking on the phone a few weeks ago, Seamus, like those top level programs at D2, D3 like would beat us. Like those kids are real fast. So it's not a knock on that. I think they're just other factors that like outweighed that, I guess.
Yeah. No, my brother swam at Denison, and he'd run those on college swimming. You can like simulate dual meets. He would like do that and send it to us just to be like, remind me that we don't mean anything in D1. So definitely not a knock to D3, D2 kids.
I'm completely agreeing with you both answers. I think it was ego for sure. I wanted to swim D1. I know myself, being self-aware enough, I just wanted to have that little caveat there saying, yeah, I was a D1 athlete. But no, 100%, the D2, D3 schools are, a lot of them could beat us easily, like mop the floor, like exhibition early. But no, it's yeah. I thought the other school that I was like an option was Manhattan College, and most of the which is also like a mid-major, like lower level D1 school, but it's just like it's a vacuum for all the talent that pretty much came out of my club team or my area just ended up going to Manhattan College. And like I have no knock on Manhattan College, but I just didn't want to become another statistic on that list. It's just like, oh, it's another Sharks kid or another Team Rockland kid that ended up in Manhattan College. Nothing against them. It's just I didn't want that. I thought UMass was definitely a more interesting challenge. Nothing was guaranteed of a spot, like not a spot, but like any conference spots for me. Just I thought it was going to be interesting. I ended up just after talking to Sean Clark. That's a guy I want to be under, and he's a smart guy, so it worked out.
Yeah, no, I like. I think I liked everyone's points that you guys brought up in there. I think back to your point, Casey, about sort of the mid-major Division I route and sort of there being a place for that. I absolutely agree. I think that it is sort of this middle ground between like a D3, D2, and then like top level Power 5 Division I conferences where like swimming is really like your priority no matter what. Like that is like, you're just going to be in that grind, and if you're not contributing to your team, you could get lost in like the mix of some of the other swimmers who are great swimmers, but like, ultimately if you're not a contributor to like a Michigan or an Indiana or a Texas, like, what are you doing? Right. Like, and so what's your place on this team? And so I think that, yeah, like our experience at UMass being in the Atlantic 10, being amongst other mid-major conferences, it is nice because the benefit is you are a Division I student athlete. I think you're going to get treated like one at most places. And some of those benefits include like receiving an athletic scholarship, if that is, a possibility, depending on sort of, what athletic department, within their swim program has to offer. But like it is an option. And then also, just sort of reaping the benefits of like, having Division I student athlete sort of on your portfolio when it comes to jobs and like certain things. I mean, it's super attractive, and there's a myriad of reasons of why it's worth it. But I do like that point, because there absolutely is a place. And like you said, if you're a really good, competitive, just committed swimmer coming out of high school or club, and you're looking for, that Division I experience, going mid-major is great, because you can be a contributor to the team. You can make an impact. You can make a name for yourself, and sort of not get like mixed up in the wash of the millions of other swimmers, not millions, but the thousands of other swimmers who, kind of go to big time Division I schools, but just don't make it to that next level, because ultimately that is just the next level of swimmers that kind of rise to the crop. So I would say, or rise to the top. So I agree with that. And yeah, it's interesting just hearing everyone's like reasons for ultimately deciding UMass. I do think, a huge benefit was like just being at a bigger school. I know for me, coming from like a smaller town, smaller high school, I really wanted like a bigger school. Hence why the initial, sort of school for me was UB. It was like one of the biggest, I don't know if it might be the biggest like public school in all of New York. And so I was like, that's great for me, because I want to get out of sort of the smaller town, smaller high school feel where everyone knows everyone. And I want to go to a school where like I can be a face in the crowd, but still have like the camaraderie of my teammates and like that family sort of feel. So yeah, it's just interesting hearing everyone's perspectives. And I do think that there is a really cool place for like these mid-major Division I state or, whatever private schools. So I think it is, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so transitioning now, I wanted to ask, like, for you guys, what was the transition like, to a Division I college swim program that we had, at UMass? Like, what were some of the biggest learning experiences or even surprises from that freshman year? And Casey, I'll start with you.
I think I can speak a little bit for Chase and I when I say we might have came in a little over prepared.
Yeah.
I think part of that, both of us having older brothers who had gone off to college, and like, like Denizen is that's premier D3. Those guys are competing for national titles, and then with Blake and then PJ at Michigan. So I had this. I had this image that I had to be a ready-made product when I got to school. So like I trained all summer, like no let up. And yeah, I definitely think like maybe came in a little bit over prepared for that. Not that that's a bad thing, but that was. I remember Mike giving me a little bit of a hard time. Like, who does this kid think he is? I was just like, all right, chill out a little bit. Like, warranted in hindsight. But I think the biggest challenge for me was. Just going from being like the senior on your team, your club team, and on your high school team, being the big guy, right? To then you get to school and you're the small fish again, right? And you have to earn the respect of everyone. You have to make new friends, right? Like college is challenging enough, like as an 18-year-old, and then you throw in having the time commitment of a sport. It's a lot. So I just think again, like readjusting, settling in with the boys was definitely tough. And then lifting, I had never lifted before. And then when we get a macho man like Jordan as our first lift coach, like that was a bit, like a little bit of a culture shock. You know what I mean? And like, God bless the man, like knew what he was talking about to an extent, but definitely was a rude awakening, like hitting the weight room for the first time.
Yeah, I have to agree with Casey. Like, kind of a little bit like over prepared almost. Like my club swimming background, like I was running, it was something insane, like 8 practices a week or something, like doubles on the weekends. Like our day off was Wednesday, and then we had like 2 practices Saturday, 2 practices Sunday. So, and we had I had a majority long course training too, where 5 of my practices a week were more long course than short course. And I also we got to swim at Oakland University, which is a phenomenal pool. And so a big adjustment for me, I think, in terms of like the D1 world, was going to Boyden and like our 6 lane, maybe 25 yards on a good day pool. So it was an adjustment in terms of like that. Like we had probably like 20 plus lanes when we were running like short course, and 8 plus lanes, like probably 10 lanes running like long course. So it was a lot different to go from like that to all 20 of us being in like a 6 lane pool at the same time. But overall, it was like a really good adjustment, I think, in terms of like practice, like, because you can get, it doesn't matter the facilities, you can get the work done that you need to get done. So I think that was like a really valuable thing to learn.
Yeah, if Chase and Casey were overprepared, I'm on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. I was underprepared. That first day, I think I was just asking the guys that were there already for the past years. I was like, "So how hard is this set? What are we doing? Is that one a tough one? Is that going to hurt?" And it was just kind of like a feeling out process. I remember our test sets. I couldn't even finish it. I was just in a completely other mindset of like, oh, I was able to, drift through, just get to practice. I'll do it afterwards. It's fine. But as soon as you make a transition into college, it's kind of no BS. It's like you wake up in the morning, you got to go swim in that cold pool, and then go to class right after, and then end up going to lift or whatever, swimming a second time, and then finding a way to do homework all in between. And yeah, it's just if people don't prepare for it, it's also a problem. So yeah, you can't just go willy-nilly into it.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, even thinking in my own sense, like Chase and Casey, you guys were sort of on this side of the spectrum, was like you're over prepared, like you've done so much leading up to like getting into the college scene, and then Mike, you were on the other side where you're like underprepared, sort of, I don't know, getting by as like an athletic sprinter who, definitely is committed to swimming and went through varsity and like was committed there, but like, not the major club swimmer who's doing like 10K a day and that sort of thing. So it's definitely sort of a shock to the system.
I was strictly like, when it comes down to the sport of swimming, I truly enjoy racing. Like, that's where I was driven by. Like, even if it's practice and we're doing sprints, I want to go fast. It's that Ricky Bobby mentality. It's just I want to go fast, and that's it. The stuff in between, it's like it's just yards, But you put a guy next to me and say that there's a stopwatch counting us. Fireworks, man.
Fireworks.
Mike was one of the best practice sprinters, I swear. Like, it would be insane, over the top. I think between the four of us, we were all pretty good at those test sets. I know, like, what was the IM set? Chase was always at the top. Seamus, you were always up there. I could do breaststroke. I would have been up there. But
honestly, the only reason I was anywhere close in those IM ones is because of the breaststroke, and I'm like decent at best.
Chase put together some good like, I remember when they started throwing it. I think they threw you in the two breasts, right, just to see, because it was like we got to mix it up so he's not doing just purely distance and 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, let's see.
I forgot what it was in my like sophomore year. I think like we made it a goal for me to try to swim every single event, like throughout all of the gold meets. And I think I did everything except for the 100 back.
Except the 100 back.
Yeah.
I remember
they
when
loved throwing
Casey...
me in the 50 just to see it. They would just throw me in like lane 6.
It's outside smoke.
They threw me in the 100 breast once, and I think I got DQ'd for doing the illegal dolphin kick after completing my breaststroke kick, which is something that I just could never break the habit in high school or club. And Sean was like, "Yeah, that's just embarrassing that you're still doing that at the college level. So we're never going to put you in breaststroke ever again." And I was like, "I need it for my AM, so if I can get by doing that, somewhat legal, then that's fine." But yeah, no, I think, and Casey, you were doing, I remember, you're primarily obviously a flyer but you were mixing up too. You finding your third event. I remember they were throwing you in backstroke your first year, still sticking with like, can he do a 2 back? Is this something, or like the 100 back? And then ultimately, I think you landed in sort of the distance 500 free as like that third event to complement your butterfly. But then you transitioned out of that and you went to IM. And so anyways, we're getting on a tangent, but I would say it is, I don't know, all of this stuff is interesting, but like going back to the transition piece, it is just interesting, like finding where people sort of fall on the spectrum of like preparedness coming into like a collegiate program. Certainly when it came to lifting, yeah, like I had no experience. I know Mike had experience lifting. Casey and Chase, we kind of all fell into the same category of just like not really having that exposure to like, intense lifting. But I think, yeah, that was something that was definitely an adjustment. Like you mentioned, Jordan being sort of this brute, bigger lifting coach who definitely, you could tell, wanted it to be more of a priority for us, even though we would have to literally get out of a 2-hour, pretty intense practice and then have to like eat a snack and go right into the weight room for like an hour plus session. But I could hear his voice now. Just like what were some of the I was just trying to think, like, what were some of the things that he would say? Like what
Metallica is the greatest song ever.
One of these 7 times a day, top to bottom. Good. And that's wonderful life advice, by the way. Like
I remember he would always, before we would break it down, before we would start a lift, he'd always go, "Okay, guys, where are you at today? Good? Somewhere in between, or thumbs down?" And, like, we would be, some of us would be here, some of us would be here, some of us would be here. Okay, well, we're gonna grade a great lift in today. Like, he just wanted it was like completely pointless. It was completely pointless. We'd always do it. And then he'd be like, "All right, well, gentlemen, we got to get going today. So we're gonna have a tough one ahead. Lumber, let's break it down." All right. No. So
he also loved to call both Casey and I Case, and then getting mad when the other would respond to him.
Oh God. And he definitely had his bromance with Pedrick, so that was nice.
Even Panos. I like their interactions.
Panos and him and DiGiacomo. They had some good ones. God, yeah, no, that was, but definitely that was like I remember that transition was so rough for me. I mean, definitely, I was used to swimming a lot. I think I fell somewhere probably in between the spectrum of like you guys, where we had just such condensed practice times here at the pool that we were using that like I just didn't have the accessibility to do. I probably would have done doubles like if I could have, just because I was a committed swimmer, but like we didn't have that time. So like it was somewhat of a shock to like get to do just like more swimming on a weekly basis. But like the lifting, I remember just like it was like so new and just trying to figure out the right techniques, and really not figuring it out at first, but like thinking I did, and then just like putting on more weight, even though probably wasn't like fully lifting properly on some of those lifts that we were doing. But like, yeah, I think figuring that piece out and like adding on the extra strength and weight and seeing how it would translate to your swimming definitely took like the full year to figure out, and then adapt to it by sophomore year, where you could like, just be more comfortable and like excited for that setting. But yeah, no, it's all really interesting points. And like talking about, our practices and our weekly schedule, like just to run it through. I mean, obviously we're going Monday through Saturday. Sunday was a complete rest day for us, but we would go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We would do our single afternoon practice with an hour lift, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays we double. So we double swim. We would have a really intense morning workout Tuesday and Thursday mornings, where we would like break out into our stroke specific groups, and then in the afternoon we would do like a kind of combined dry land but also like spin 30-minute session before we like got in the water for our sort of combined afternoon double. And then on Saturday mornings we would have a really intense, we always knew when we geared up for Saturdays that would be like super intense, probably off the blocks, lactate based, sort of like test set practice that we would gear up for. So my question to you guys is just like, looking back, what were some of the more challenging practices to gear up for, and what were like specific sets, if any, from those practices that really stand out? And I guess Chase, I'll start with you.
I think probably some of the harder ones that to like gear up for would have to be like whenever we would do like the 400s and stuff. That was always like brutal, because I feel like we also would always do it exclusively on like the Tuesday and Thursday afternoon like practices, while you guys were out doing like the power and like short like sprinty stuff. They would give us like 4-4s, 31s, a 2K pull. So I think those ones were like hard to gear up for, because it was just like go and swim for a while. But honestly, nothing felt like impossible. I feel like going into it, where I would feel like that in high school, like all the time, and like, how am I going to make it through this? But I think like our coaches did a really good job of preparing us for these like sets to make it feel like, all right, I can get through this. Like I can do it like well too. I also want to shout out the 10-300s. I feel like that was always like the one that like would scare me the most out of all of them.
Yeah, I think having the hardest practices of the week be Tuesday and Thursday morning, and knowing that those were going to be the hardest, that was a big change. Like in club, even when we did doubles, the morning was usually like, I mean, it stunk to get up for, but it was usually something long. It was usually like a more like pace, like stretch it out, wake up, like get your body warmed up, and we'll hit it in the afternoon. So that was like a big shift to have to like, okay, I got up at 5 a.m. and I have 5,000 yards of butterfly. Like, that was not always fun, but I think as hard as those practices were, those were like satisfying to finish. Definitely my worst practice came freshman year on training trip. So it was a little different, but I was still doing distance. And I remember everyone else, I was like what Chase was talking about, where like everybody else was doing some short, like sprint, like 50s for time or whatever. And we're doing pace pull, and I'm a god awful puller. And I'm getting lapped by all the distance guys, by Chase, by Ollie, Panos, like Riz is over there kicking my tail. Pity was probably kicking my tail too. Like everybody's kicking my butt. And like, I remember looking up at Nunley because I missed the set, I missed the interval. And he just goes, well, why don't you just get out of the way for everyone else who's making the set? Like nonchalant, like just cooked me. That was definitely like, those were tough times. I remember me and Austin were like loafing it in the back, trying our hardest and just getting nowhere. Those pull practices killed me.
I will say I do remember that specific practice though, and like none of us were making it. It was like impossibly hard. I think Pity was, and then I was like starting to fall off, and then I think John like called us all to the wall. I was like, all right, we got to do something else.
That was a tough one, but yeah, I don't know. For sure.
Definitely where what Chase said, the 10-300s is probably one of the most daunting, especially for like a sprinter. It's like it's the last thing I want to be doing is swimming 12 laps, and they're putting it for time. So that's up there. But even just like doing like test sets for like 10-50s and like not much time, like rest in between. And those are the times you're really just challenged. You're like, it's just like, you're going to push the last 10-15 yards and then get out of the pool, jump up on the blocks again, and then do it another 9 times. That's where you get tested. That's like, I don't know, that sucks for me. And especially, it's usually Tuesdays, Thursdays in the morning, like Casey said, and that's the last thing you want to be doing at dawn.
What sucked about 10-50s too was that we'd have like 3 people like in a lane at once, and we'd like dive over each other. So it was like you had to get out of the pool immediately, and that was just another like layer of exhaustion like to that set.
Yeah.
I mean, the test sets were brutal. The 10-3s, the 400s, even 50s, like the 10-1s to start the year. I think the test sets, you just knew were going to be hard. But I'm surprised, like none of you mentioned the. I always felt like the ones Tuesdays and Thursday mornings for sure. You just knew like you're probably going to be in more often than not you're going to be in that stroke that you do primarily, and like it's going to be a killer hard sort of set. But those Saturday mornings, like I just think because of the unpredictability of like, okay, what is it going to be in terms of like, the off the block set? Like, is it going to be 100s base or like 50s base or 75s? And I just remember one morning practice we did like all off the blocks. Like it might've been like 6 1s and then like followed by like 8 or 10 50s. And it was just like max effort. Right. And like, I just felt like I never experienced that level of pain to the point where like I was just throwing, you're over by the garbage can and you're just like getting ready to hurl because you have nothing in your system but maybe like a Belvita bar or like a Rice Krispies, and then you're trying to like push max effort, while like holding all this lactic acid repeatedly. And I don't know, for me, like when I step up on the blocks, like I just don't have it in me to like pull back. Like I was just someone who like had to exert that max effort if we were to step up on those blocks. So those were just killer. I just remember like, because I never had exposure to like race pace training when it came to like going off the blocks, especially in club. Like I don't just think we had that lane space, nor did we really have that worked into like our training, and definitely not in high school either. So like the only times we'd go off the block would just be like maybe at the end of practice, we'd do a 50 here and there, like 25s. So like the race pace exposure that we experienced like at UMass, I think was super beneficial. It was some of the hardest practices, but like, I just thought it was like, it was beneficial in the long run.
There's no worse feeling than like getting down, whether it was like, the 500 in that 6-1 set, or like when we would swim off distances, like when we would do like the 225, the 175, the 75, like when you're at like that second to last one and you're over on the blocks and you've got nothing left and you're like, well, I got to do this, like, and I got to finish it. And like, there are times where you're already feeling like I'm going to vomit as soon as I touch the water. Like I'm going to take a stroke and I'm going to explode. Like, and you still got to do it. Those were the worst ones because you're already cooked, but it's like, what else are you going to do? Like you can't just throw.
Yeah. If everybody else is struggling with you, you can't be the one to say, this ain't for me. But
and I feel like Sean Clark knew how to like get it going too. Like he would always make it just feel like a fun, like a set, like almost like a race type like environment. So I feel like that, and with like the promise of having like the full weekend off, I could just brute force my way through and just like tuck my head down a little further.
For sure. I think no feeling matches post Saturday morning.
Oh.
Like you're in the shower, you're about to, when we were on campus, we're like, Burke, Hamp, where we going, boys? And like, you go grab food, or off campus when we would ride back, we'd pick up McDonald's, we'd go back to the house, catch a quick nap. And then it's like, what's next? Like, what are we getting after today? Like, I think it wipes out it wiped out everything that was bad about Saturday morning. Like Chase was saying, was just knowing what was coming, like that we could have fun and relax and chill. So
yeah, definitely throwing Newman in there as an option once we discovered the gem of Newman, and just all the free drinks they supplied. It was just and so I just no, you're right though, like the thought and just knowing that like, okay, once we can get through this practice, like we're good, we're home free for the weekend, right? And like that was always such a huge motivator. And just like Mike mentioned, just like the collective knowing that like, okay, we're all suffering through this, we're all going through this, I think like just made you at least push through like that next level of like a barrier that you needed to, no matter how much pain you're in, no matter how much suffering you were going through. I think it made it tolerable. So there's definitely a lot of hard sets that those coaches put us through, but I think we reap the benefits most times at our meets, and certainly at like the conference championship. So I thought that the program that they had instilled and the culture for the most part, particularly once we reached like our sophomore and junior year, was just like super good. Very cool. But I wanted to ask, like, shifting over to like the mindset of things, because we know how intense of a sport swimming is, and at the end of the day, we all have different ways to approach like getting into the race mindset when it came to like stepping behind the blocks. I just want you all to kind of like describe your headspace, like your mindset, maybe what tools you would use, whether that's music or visualization, to like just find that right mind frame to get you in. Like I know, Casey, you were notorious for getting behind the blocks and busting into your dance moves, and then just kind of giving the old head a nice smack before you got up on the blocks. And I remember just being like, I've never seen someone do that before, but I think whatever works once you're behind the blocks, like I see so many different things. You see the chest slap, I know Mike, you would do the chest slaps a bunch, or you would do like, this is my time. This is no one else's time, but this is my time. So I guess, I will start with Casey just because I'm really interested to see what you're going to say for this.
Yeah, I think you guys all saw the final 5% of like how I would prepare for races, and obviously that's like the loudest part. So, but I mean, one challenge I think in general with college is you swim, you're on events at a lot of meets. So like I swim the two fly maybe 3 times a year, short course, before getting to college, and then you're asked to swim at every dual meet, right? I think I swam at almost every single dual meet, save a few. They let me swim like the 100 breast at Fairfield, I think, instead. But like, so figuring out like how to tweak my mindset for that race in specific was like very challenging for me, because I was used to that being like, I'm gonna need to pop off every time I swim this, because I was pretty much only swimming it at big meets. So like switching to like doing it at a dual meet and realizing like, all right, you can chill out and just like swim the race, practice your technique was different. But I think like at a Terrier or at a A10s, it like would start with like a lot. You talked about visualization, and I remember you and I had a long conversation in the kitchen one year about like visualization and like how powerful it can be. But like I would always try to like sit back before those meets in specific and like actually visualize every stroke of the race, and like even to a point where I got a little over the top. I would like time my imaginary races, which was a little weird to be honest, thinking back on it. But I think one time I actually got pretty close to what I went, so that was funny. But so like it would start like a few weeks out, and you're like practicing the race like in your head, and then like on race day, everything for me was like pre-planned. Like I had everything figured out after freshman year. Like I'm gonna stretch this way. I'm gonna go roll in this room. I'm gonna do these stretches. And then I'm gonna wait until there's this much time left. I'm gonna get in the pool. I'm gonna do this warm up. I'm gonna do this many yards. At this time, I'm gonna start doing pace. And then, I think I even had it worked out where like I'll finish my pace. There'll be 5 minutes, and then sprints will start. So I'll just get out and I'll do sprints. And then, I'll do my pace off the blocks. And then I'm gonna spend this much time sitting. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna drink my beet juice at this time. I'm gonna start restretching. I'm gonna do my pre-race warm up again. Like, when Luke finishes his 2 breast and they're doing the awards, I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna start doing my warm up again. I'm gonna get out. There's gonna be this much time left in the girls' A final. It was just like, I think I was very meticulous. I tried to be as meticulous as I could in the prep, and then like right before the race, like you've got your music going, and like I was a psycho again, where like I had my songs picked out like before we went to the meet, and like I would listen to the exact same playlist in the exact same order. Like when we got on the bus, I was listening to that one J. Cole song with 21 Savage, right? And then like when we pulled up, I was listening to Dreams and Nightmares when we got off the bus, and like I'm stretching, I'm listening to these 5 Pusha T songs, like, and then I get behind the block, right? Like I'm walking out, and it's I think it was Black Dog, like Led Zeppelin my freshman year. Another J. Cole song for 2 years. And I think senior year, I went with some weird stuff because I was in my bag about it being senior year. And then, it's all about like, I had to keep moving. I couldn't be stationary because I was just going to freeze. Like, you know what I mean? So like, you guys saw me do the dance. I would do a little salsa, right? I would do the Danny Sturridge old goal celebration. And then, Chase alluded to it. I would just start yelling at myself. Like, it's time to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is it. It's the last race of the meet. It's the last race of the year. You get what's left. Like you don't got to warm down after this one, Case. So you might as well go for it. Yeah, right. So I know that was super long and like probably not necessary, but you asked, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer and a great response, because you kind of brought all these different elements together to go behind what sort of makes that race just work so well for you. So yeah, I mean, everything you touched on, the visualization, the meticulous sort of like preparation that you went through, like it's sort of like superstitions that we have, like, okay, I want to do this the right way because the last time it worked for me, so I want to stretch in this fashion, or I want to hop on the massage bed or foam roll or whatever it is, and make sure I have just all these things in order so that by the time I'm racing, I'm just like ready to focus on the race itself, and I can plug in my music and dance and be loose and then just go. So I think that's really interesting. Chase, what was your mindset heading into, your distance races, and how did you get into that kind of like right frame of mind to just go?
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm like very polar opposite to like Casey's style of it, where I would just get like ridiculously bad nerves like right before my events and stuff. So I think like the main preparation it was for me constantly changed because I just had to adapt to whatever was going to make me feel like the most calm, cool, and like collected before it. Like whatever was going to get my mind in like the right space, because all that mattered for me in the race was like when I dive in, like how comfortable I feel to help me like lock into that pace and just stay within like 0.03 of that like the entire time. But like all my goal was right before the event and getting my headspace was just like how to make myself, my nerves, my body as like comfortable as possible. So mostly it was music, but I didn't have a specific playlist order. I just played whatever like I needed to hear in that moment.
Any song that like you can think back that like really got you in the right frame of mind, or not so much?
I don't think, because it constantly changed. Like I don't think I ever had like the same one like back to back. It was just like whatever I needed to hear in that moment.
I kind of feel like I was a little bit of the opposite. Like I wouldn't say that I didn't care before the race or like what was going to happen. I was just like, this is like, I kind of alluded to it before that like the practice part of it wasn't the fun part. Like being at the meet with all of the guys and like trying to make people laugh, trying to like cut the tension a little bit. That to me seemed like the most fun part about swimming. So like, I would just, I guess, listen to music, try to talk to people, try to make people laugh, nothing crazy. But as soon as I got behind the blocks, especially like you're walking up behind the people or if you're in the ready room, whatever, that's the point where I'm just kind of like, I turn off that. I wouldn't even say I turn off that like comedy thing. It's just like, I'm looking around the people. I'm like, I'm not going to lose to these guys. Like I put in enough time. I'm like, kind of be a little bit of like, I don't like to say that I'm like fully like cocky or confident, but at that moment when I'm looking at the people, like my opponents, the people that I'm going to race, I'm just like kind of want to say to myself, like, if you're inching with them for the last 5 yards, you better put your head down and like try to finish before them. It's just really what it is. But aside from the nerves, I never really saw them there, especially when I was a kid. I think I did. But once like high school swimming came around, I remember one guy, Brandon Shields, he kind of just told me like at the end of the day, as long as you're putting in a good effort, you're not putting any of your teammates down and anything like that, like everybody's still going to love you after this race, no matter if you not do well or you do well, like just put in your best effort. And since that, it was like kind of a lot easier to go into those races and, not get, stuck in the head and just, hit the water.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so fascinating just to hear all your different perspectives on the mindset. I think to Mike's last point, and I think I alluded to this in one of my last podcasts, when I asked this question to a swimmer, I brought it up because I was like, it wasn't until my freshman year at Atlantic 10s, or it might have been sophomore year, but I literally like asked you, Mike, like, how do you just like stay relaxed before the race? Like, how are you just like talking to someone, beforehand, or just like kind of keeping composed and relaxed? And you were like, dude, you just got to care less. Like, you got to care less in the sense where you just got to like take it less seriously, trust, the work that you've put in, and like, you'll be fine. Like I think you're just probably putting too much pressure on the moment. Like you're kind of bottling yourself up to like make this out to be the biggest deal in the world when it's just swimming. It's just a race. Like, you've done this a million times. And I remember it was such a flip, like where I was like, I get it now. Like, I don't know why, but I was just like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like, I wish someone had told me that earlier, because I literally remember just I approached it so differently. Like, I think that's why I had the best meet that I did that sophomore year at our conference championships, because my mindset was like, just trust everything you've done. You feel good. you're going to swim good and don't overthink things. And so I think, yeah, just that's a really interesting, just like perspective to have, because it is so easy just to like get really into the, I don't know, just like pressurized nervousness moment of it all. And like nerves is normal when you're stepping up behind the blocks. You got to channel those nerves, but it's like, okay, what tools are you going to use to like help kind of channel it into performing? I don't know, just like getting up and just like performing, like just going. And I think, yeah, it's just really interesting. Everyone's got, you know, their different way of doing it. Like Chase, you said, you're just trying to think about, okay, once I enter the water, like how comfortable do I feel? Like, is this going to feel good? Am I going to stay on my pace? And then Casey, you know, you're trying to like dance behind the blocks and like, you know, talk to yourself and do that sort of thing. And Mike, you're just, you know, trying to like stay in the moment and just like be relaxed, you know, not put too much pressure on it, and then kind of get into that killer mode where it's like, okay, you know, if it's you or me, you're done. Like it's me, like I'm going to beat you out those last 5 yards. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know, thinking in my own like way of getting into that mental space. I was like a super pressurized, like I'm going to let the nerves get to me type of swimmer. Like I didn't know what sort of, I don't know, like version of myself I was going to get, because sometimes I would let the nerves get the best of me and it would like go to crap. And then other time I would channel it into like, okay, I'm ready to go. And like I said, it wasn't until I kind of like took a step back and was like, okay, care a little bit less, not in the sense of like don't care about it, but like take it a little less seriously. You're going to do fine. Trust the process, trust everything you've done. Then it really worked out. So I don't know. I hope that like sharing all of this might give any listeners that are swimmers or like still in the space some tricks to like help, because I do think it's just like super interesting. I'm going to shift gears now, and I just want us to recount talking about routines and the importance of routine. You know, we were in the nice routine our junior year of, you know, finishing up our practice, you know, finishing up any homework, whatever, watching our shows, kind of like chilling out, decompressing, going on the phone, whatever it might be. And we get into bed. It might have been a Friday evening on the eve of our biggest dual meet of the year, which was our dual meet. It was a home meet against Boston University. That Saturday, a lot of our parents were coming in for the weekend. I know like a lot of family were coming in. I believe it was like homecoming weekend. It was like a big deal. And, you know, Boston University is sort of like our biggest out of conference rival. And so, you know, anyways, we're in the routine, right? Like we're getting ready, we're doing all of our stuff, our mental preparation, visualization. I mean, who knows? But we go to bed that evening, and Mike comes, you know, up the stairs from the dungeon, from the basement, and he comes up the stairs and he comes over to Casey's room, knocks on his door, and then eventually makes his way to my door because something has happened in the middle of the night. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you to give your perspective of what just happened on that night, in the middle of the night, on the eve of our biggest dual meet of the year.
So I believe it was like 2 a.m., like 2:15. I was in bed. I was already probably like 2 hours in my slumber, and I hear like noise coming outside of my window. And it's just like, it keeps getting louder and louder. Like, it's probably just some drunk kid just like cutting through. Like, okay, I'll just like wait for it to pass. Like another 15 minutes like go by. And now he's like kicking at my window. I'm like, all right, bud, like, what are we doing? And I'm like, I'm waiting at my like door. I'm like in my bed, and I'm like still kind of like, is he going to go through the bathroom side and try to come in? And I'm like, I don't even know. And then as soon as I'm like thinking in my head, my window comes up and I just see like kind of like his head. I'm like, yo, I got to get out of here. Like I had my Scooby-Doo moment. I like ran up the stairs. Like there must have been like a dust cloud behind me that went poof. I was gone. And like I run up the stairs, like definitely like, you know, those moments when you like turn out the lights and then like try to rush up the stairs and you're like your hands hit like the bottoms of the steps. Like that was me running up the stairs, like at 21 years old. I run into Seamus's room and he's like, he's not up. Like I gotta like, you know, give him a forceful shoving. And I'm like, yo, there's somebody in the house. It's like, what do you mean there's somebody in the house? I'm like, there's like somebody broke into the house, and like I have like a knife in my hand, like almost like Michael Myers style, but like like I don't know. I feel like I usually am like in a calm and cool collective situation, just like anything confrontational. But as soon as like Seamus kind of like woke up and realized that like I was kind of like freaking out, he was like, all right, something's kind of like wrong. So I ran over to Casey's, and while I think I was running over to Casey's room to wake him up, Seamus was on the phone calling 911.
Yeah, I mean, my point of view was interesting because I mean, I was in the middle of sleeping, in the middle of a good old REM cycle, and then you just come and sort of give me that forceful shove, and I roll over, and I just see you with one hand you have a knife, and then the other one you're just like looking frantic. You're like, huh, this can't be good. Mike's got a knife. It's the middle of the night. This isn't a dream. I don't know. What are we doing? And he's like, yeah, there's someone in the house. And I'm like, there's someone in the house. Like, what the, what are you talking about? Where? Like, are we going to die? And then, I'm like freaking out, whatever. And I think at that point, I think you might have gone to get Casey. I got to give Casey.
He came into my room, and it was like the same thing where like just knowing Mike and like his background, and I see him freaked out, like white as a ghost, holding a weapon. One of our dull kitchen knives, a weapon. And he's like, yo, there's someone in the house. And my first reaction was, I think I rolled over and was like, Mike, no, there's not. And then I gotta look at him, and I was like, oh God, there's someone in the house. And I remember like getting up and waiting outside your room, Seamus, because you guys were inside. And I was like, there's no one in the house. There's no one in the house. And I heard the kid like move. He must have like fallen off the bed or something, or kicked the wall.
Yeah.
And I come running back into your room, Seamus, and the three of us are huddled up in there, like on the phone with 911. And fortunately, they were at the McDonald's right down the road. And then that's when we noticed. We did a quick head count. We did Seamus is here, Mike's here, Casey's in here. Oh crap!
And that context, I am like the world's heaviest sleeper. Like I don't wake up for anything, clearly, even a home invasion. And I believe like what I heard from the night like after was while Casey's on the phone with 911, he's like, oh, like our other roommates in the room, and 911 straight up tells him like it's not worth endangering the three of you to save the one.
They said, don't leave your room. Don't leave your room.
I remember when they came in the house. We gave them the code to get in the house. They came in, and like one of them went downstairs. One of them came up to us, and they were like, "Are all of you in here?" We're like, "No, our fourth roommate, he's in the other room." And we're like, "But he's sleeping." But like he's our roommate. He's our roommate. And for whatever reason, the officer decided to like play a joke on Chase. Like,
dude, they like bust
the door in, and he's like, "Do you live here?" And Chase was like, "Yeah, do you?" Or like he said something like so sassy right back to him, and it was like, well deserved. Felt so bad.
I remember waking up to like it was like multiple like flashlights, and then be like, identify yourself. I'm like, identify myself. I'm like, identify yourself. And then all I hear is Casey going, that's him. That's the roommate. That's the roommate.
He's with us.
Then I get out of bed, and I just remember like they end up finding the guy. It was just some drunk guy that we think he knew the people that lived in our house the year prior. But they're asking us all to go down there and kind of like question and identify him potentially. And I just got out of bed, and the officer looks at me and he goes, "Put on some clothes, man." Like, you saw my every move.
You did this.
you did this.
That guy just decided to swing by our house. I guess he knew a few people from Chelmsford that lived at our house, and that's it.
That's it.
I wanted to look it up before we got on, but I can't remember how we swam at that meet. But I just remember like we told Russ and Sean, and they were like,
what were their reactions?
They were like, "Stop talking, go warm up." Like I remember they were just like,
I
"What
remember
are they talking about?"
Russ specifically, and he just went, "Huh, okay, buddy." I was
Like they did not believe us, and it was like, what would we
Yeah.
possibly think? Like, what did they think we were covering for? Like that's like,
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it was quite the event. And this was like pre-COVID too. So this is like probably 3 or 4 months before, everything shuts down. But I just remember that being probably the biggest story to come out of our junior year. Biggest story maybe to come out of our college time. But that was wild. And I think we beat we beat BU
We
the
won
next
that
day
year.
too. We won that meet. Yeah.
we won
It was
that
the
meet.
adrenaline, man.
I remember
it
because
was-
I remember that was the year Emerson popped off in the 1,000, right? And like we
Yeah.
won the relay, we won the
Right.
1,000,
Right.
and we were like, oh, they're gassed. Like we're fired up for this meet, and they're gassed. So I think we kind of handled business, but
Took it to him. Yeah. No, I remember it being a super good meet in the end. But yeah, anyways, crazy stuff. Past junior year, again, we did experience COVID our end of our junior year leading into our senior year. So, what were your experiences during like the COVID year, especially our senior year? And just like that time of just lockdown and shutdown, like, did you use that time to work on improving specific areas in your life or just in general? I know like I can speak for 3 of us here, like we decided, myself, Chase, and Mike all decided to not swim our senior season. So Casey was the only one who stuck it out through that senior season, albeit it was a short condensed season because our pools were shut down the fall semester. So even if we wanted to swim, we didn't have that option. But then we ended up having a condensed sort of 2-month season, senior year, and Casey practiced and competed, and so he was the only one to sort of represent our North Maple tribe here. But so for like 3 of us, for all 3 of us, we did not compete that last year, and certainly Casey, experienced a very similar year. We only had 2 months of our season, but yeah. So like, what was that time like for all of you? Like, I know we all transitioned like in our own way. At least I don't know, just noticing from my angle, I felt like for me, I had a knee injury. I couldn't really channel my energy towards swimming. So I started looking on the other side of the sport and was like, I want to start coaching. Like swimming's been such a big part of my life. I kind of want to just see the other side of things. I felt like it could be a natural sort of like seamless transition. So I started coaching my senior year. And then I know Chase was working on sort of grinding his master's degree. So he was doing his master's degree, sort of going on runs, working on some projects at the house and whatnot. And then Mike seemed, I don't know, to me, it just seemed like you had gone sort of a transition in your own sort of outlook on life, where you had taken a lot of time when we had all left the house. You kind of had a quick turnaround to come back to the house, sort of in that like spring, summertime of 2020. So you were at the house sort of like isolated alone for a good period of time. And I know, I came back to the house, and you had, your writings on the mirror and like certain messages, like daily messages to yourself. And I know you had read like David Goggins' book and like certain things, and it just seems like your perspective sort of had shifted a bit. So we all underwent different changes. But yeah, so I guess Mike, I'll start with you for like what, looking back in retrospect, like what, I don't know, you just learned about yourself, or in general, like what that time was like for you.
Yeah, that time was really, I feel like it's one of the most, like, I guess, polarizing or most influential times in my life, I feel like, because it's just so much time that you end up spending by yourself at the house, and there's only so much like TV you can watch or stuff like that. At a certain point, you got to kind of sit within your own head, and you got to figure out the things that really kind of matter to you, and like you said, I definitely read Goggins. I read Jocko Willink's book about extreme ownership, and it's kind of those characteristics that I try to strive through now. It's like I want to be accountable for any kind of mistakes that I'm making, and if I am making a mistake, how can I improve afterwards? I feel like just that time I kind of, figured out what kind of means a lot to me. I obviously, those times that I wanted to party and stuff like that during college and whatever. But after that period, I just kind of realized like want to acquire as many skills as possible, want to learn as much as possible, and be a positive member of society.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, I remember coming back because I had spent a good portion of that COVID time at home before returning to UMass for our senior year. And just like seeing you in your daily routine and just like talking to you again, it's not like, Mike of old was not there or anything. It was just like, oh, there's a new perspective that sort of he is instilling in his own life where there is much more accountability. There's much more ownership. I think there's just more vulnerability in terms of like, of just like sort of like being your authentic self, but then also like, I don't know, just like sort of like treating people with like a different outlook on life. And then also, yeah, you were just like in a whole routine of like going to the gym first thing in the morning. And then sort of like, yeah, just you would always tell me like every day is an opportunity to learn something. Cause some days I would just be like, like, I don't want to do this or whatever, like a same old routine. And you'd be like, hey, look, every day is an opportunity to learn something new. I'd be like, yeah, yeah, that's true. But I would just kind of like dismiss it in my own head. Meanwhile, you're downstairs.
And that coming from me 2 years earlier on, I would have probably like beat up the younger version of me would have probably beat up like that version of me, just being like, come on, nerd, what are you doing? But where we learn at different rates and speeds.
For sure. And like, yeah, that maturity comes over time. It doesn't, it's impossible to look back and be like, I wish like I was that person when I was 17 or 18 years old, because it just doesn't happen like that. You need sort of that reflection, that period of reflection, and like, sort of like the benefit of hindsight to be like, okay, this is, what I could have done better, but now I have the opportunity to be better the next day and the next day and the next day. Chase, for you, like what was that sort of period like for you? Again, like we stopped swimming, all three of us, me, you, and Mike, and obviously Casey to a large extent too, before the season got rolling. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, so primarily I think the decision for me and like not continuing with swimming was the biggest like threat was A10s being like pushed back. And I wasn't at like a place academically where I could kind of afford A10s being pushed back like a couple of months. So I kind of had to make the decision like really early on to like throw myself into academics. I ended up graduating like a semester early to like jump into an accelerated like master's program. And on top of that, like I was an accounting major, so I had to jump into like CPA exams. So I just knew that like, unfortunately, swimming like had to take a back seat like for that. I was going to make it work with a normal season. But I think honestly, though, through that time, I think it was a really great choice, especially for, I feel like the social time that we got to have with like the smaller group of people like in Amherst or like Mike, I feel like, like wanted to party, like all that stuff. But once it kind of came down to it, like I enjoyed the nights where it's kind of like just us hanging out, like playing cards. And we just had so much more time to develop and kind of like value those relationships. So I think like socially, it sounds weird to say like during COVID, I think like that really like blossomed and got to like really improve.
The hours spent playing Do-Rock.
I'll never forget like one day where I think Seamus, Paige, and I specifically like sat down at like 4 p.m. and we looked up and it was like 9 p.m. and we just played Do-Rock like the entire time without like we just like blacked out during it, like all of us.
And Mike was the reason we got into that game. He introduced us.
No. Diaz brought it first. I'm pretty sure Diaz showed it first. And I was just like, oh, obviously I like, this is like a Russian speakers. Like every one of them knows like this card game. I was like, yeah, I used to play it as a kid. And I was like, all right, we could branch out within the community and show them what's up.
Oh God, that became literally the staple of our household on a nightly basis, was just breaking out Do-Rock at the table. Oh God.
Paige just being at our house.
and then Paige being at our house and wine and Do-Rock breaking out on a daily basis.
Responsibly, we were all 21 or 22 at the time. Were responsibly.
Exactly. Yep.
I think nothing beat Jeopardy. Jeopardy beat everything.
Oh, the
Jeopardy freshman year. Yeah.
Casey put in time and effort into making trivia also. That's above and beyond. That's some of my like fondest memories. That's awesome.
That was Yeah.
Making me blush. Making me blush.
Dude, come on, man.
Dude, Casey
You know,
was
right?
the best Jeopardy host, and yeah.
Laser with the
loved
yellow
hosting that
basketball shorts could not be beat.
Oh man.
But yeah, you're right. Like looking back, like for some reason, yeah, like I don't know, not for some reason, but like for good reason, that senior year, yeah, we had so much more like intimacy within our relationships and stuff, in the sense where we just like, yeah, we were confined to just hang out with each other all the time, and there wasn't like the option of going to, I don't know, class with thousands of people and being on campus with thousands of people and sort of, I don't know, partying on the weekends or just being in the regular routine of things. Like this year was so unique because we were truly on campus to like finish out our last year with each other, and like, with the friends and the inner circle of, I don't know, teammates and people that we had around. And so it was like, I don't know, like different living experience. Like it was just completely different in all areas of like our college experience. So it kind of stands alone to me. Like it's kind of like the first 3 or like 2.5 years, I guess, with COVID. And then it's like senior year. And it's just like completely, I don't know. It's just different to me. It's like not even, you can't even like compare them. I mean, we're literally, conducting school online at that point too. So we weren't going into classes. I mean, Casey had an in-person class occasionally, but like, you barely going on campus. So anyways, yeah, Casey, what was your experience like though?
Yeah, I remember, like, to be honest, and I think Sean did know this, but he didn't tell me till after the season. I did not want to compete senior year. I was I think when the world shut down and like there was an out, I was ready to take the out. But similar to Chase, I had kind of tried to speed up the beginning of undergrad, and my goal was to like, had things gone normally, like senior year, I was only going to have one class my final semester. So I was like, this will be real nice and it was like a gen ed, I think. It was nothing major. So I was like, this will be nice. Like senior year, we'll wrap up in February, and then I can kind of chill, like get to enjoy college, like for what it is, like we'd seen all the older kids before us do. So then when like everything shut down and they were like, no swimming, like the pool was closed for a semester, I was like, well, like what are we gonna do here? Like I was very pessimistic. I did not want to swim, but I talked with my older brother, PJ. I remember having heart to heart with him. I talked to all of you guys probably about it individually, and you all gave me good advice, which was, and PJ included, which was just like, you got to do like what you want to do and like what's going to be fun, and like just do that and like enjoy it. And I do think I had a completely different mindset going into senior year. And I think it was just like, all right, what else am I going to do? Like, why not? I'm here to swim. Like, let's swim. Let's make the most of it. And I had a blast. I mean, it was the most laid back season because there were no expectations. I mean, laid back in the sense of what we expected to happen. And I think we had a group of young, hungry freshmen and sophomore who had just, come in that were itching to go. And I think hearing them on our team Zooms, like, we're here, like, we want to do this. Like, yes, we're so fired up. I think it was just like, all right, how can you not? Like, I literally have nothing better to do. Like, let's do this. And so the swimming part, yeah, was a lot of fun. I think, I wish it could have been normal and that I could have had, we could have celebrated that senior year, kind of how we all envisioned it, finishing together. But end of the day, I think it was a great decision for me personally to do that. Like you guys were saying, we all kind of figured out like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make the most of this time? And we all did it. And I'd certainly say we all succeeded. I mean, Seamus is a coach now, right? Like, Mike, you found a great job in an industry that you like, and you're living in Boca now. Chase, you got that job with PwC now, right? Like, you know what I mean? So like, we all in our own right, like, we figured out where we wanted to go and we did it. So it was cool. And it was fun to have you guys along, like, the whole way. I don't like, even like, I missed having you guys there. Like, wasn't the same not rooming with you, Chase. Like, there was a comfort to just knowing like exactly what Chase was going to do, or like if I said something like, all right, well, Chase will just tell me to shut up, or he'll tell me this, and like I'm telling Munsterman, like, I'm freaking out, and Munsterman's like, me too, and I'm like, I did not need to hear that.
No.
I'm like, no, you're supposed to be the level-headed one. But bless him too. I mean, but yeah, I guess it was different, but I'm so happy for all of us. Like, can't look back on senior year without being happy, like for everyone and all of our friends, not just you guys here, but like, you know, the girls, the guys at the other house too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I don't know, like as much as it might have been like an abrupt end in terms of the swimming, it was also like a fitting end. And like you said, we are all kind of made our own paths in life post swimming, and think that yeah, we learned a lot about ourselves throughout that senior year that like led us to be where we are now. For I don't know, just for better or for worse, but I think definitely for better. So yeah, transitioning out of that, like, what are some of y'all's favorite memories from swimming? Like, what when you think back, and this can be club, high school, recreation, whatever it is, like rec swimming, and certainly our time at UMass, like what are those favorite memories that stick out? What are the most memorable moments? Again, it could be a race, it could be practices, team events, whatever it is, but like, yeah, what really like sticks out for you? And I guess Chase, I'll start with you here.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like one specific moment, I guess, but one thing that I just like loved to hear about was like with my 400 IM was like Casey hyping up the crowd, like just because of how I swam. It was like so different, and people would always think after my fly that I was like dying and it wasn't going to be a good race. Like I feel like it was just like fun to hear that, and fun to hear that like I don't like that a distance event or like a longer event could be fun to like watch. So I definitely really enjoyed that. I loved like seeing like guys and girls team just being like stoked to see like one of my races.
It was must see TV. Chase's 4 IM. And like, because people won't know, but like Chase was not a great flyer, but he was really good endurance, right? And he had a sneaky good breaststroke. And then obviously being a distance swimmer, you could close fast in the free. But you would go out and be like 7th, 8th. And I think it was at Terrier 1 year, you were out in like 56 in the 100 fly. Does that sound right? You were out like 56.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly probably like 58. Like,
and
my fly's not fast.
One of the, I think it was, I can't remember who it was. It was like Heath or Diaz or maybe Emerson, like turned to me and was like, "Oh no, he looks bad." And I was like, "Are you kidding? That's his fastest split ever." Like, you don't know this guy. Like, watch this drive. Like, watch him turn this on. Oh my God. So much fun watching you swim, dude. It's unreal. I think beyond watching Chase swim, as I said, I think some of my favorite memories are just like, and I do genuinely mean this, but like when the boys would accomplish something, like whether it was you guys or like one other one that like, because Seamus, you sent over the questions earlier, but like one other memory that sticks out is I remember like Noah Witt as a freshman went like 146 in the 2 back, and like, obviously we knew that kid was super talented. We knew he was going to be great, but like he did something like that. And I remember I was like, "Did you know you could do that?" And he was like, "I mean, no, but it was insane, right?" Like we're all going nuts for the kid. It was just, I don't know. There was just one thing that came to me when I was like, looking at the questions, but I will say, I'm trying to remember. You might have to come back to me. I had something and I lost it. But you'll have to come back to me.
Was it gonna? I thought you might transition into like your senior year 2 fly, or like getting on the podium or something.
I mean, that was cool. I had
not like a favorite memory.
I had my Kevin Garnett, like anything is possible, like moment where I started crying. That was awesome. I mean, a lot of things bounced my way for that to happen. Like one of the kids who was going to win it got concussed the week before the meet. I think St. Bonaventure had a couple of guys who were going to place, and they had gotten COVID 2 weeks before the meet, and like something else weird happened, and it was just like the stars aligned. And then the 2 kids who went 1-2 were like 145. Like 145, like 3, and then it's me and this kid from Davidson turning it out, coming in at like 148, and yeah, touching him out, getting the medal was great. But I seriously, I wouldn't put that as my number one swimming memory.
Yeah.
I lost it. I had something, but I lost it. But
okay, well, we'll come back to you if you have it. Mike.
I guess I have 3 that really stick out to my front of my head. In high school, I would say just that state competition. I remember that was the one that put me on the map, and I was like the 50 free. That's up there in my head. It's also one of the loudest places I've
ever that I've heard. I guess the other one was us against BU, and we 1-2-3'd in the 50. I think it was my sophomore year. I remember hearing the crowd either chant 1-2-3 or Mikey T, or there was like and then like I think Owen thought it was like they were cheering for him. I don't know, but I remember that was like a pretty cool moment where I was like, I really had to like check myself. I was like, whoa, I didn't think that was possible. And I guess the 2 medley relay at A10s, that's probably one of my fondest moments, just because it's a relay and it's like you got 3 other guys that are just like, you even before the race, you see how invested they are and like how much they really want it, as much as like I really want it. So that was pretty dope. Especially, I think I still have fastest 50 UMass history. I don't know, 50 back. Little guy like me, but it's cool. Well, it's up there for me.
Seamus, I actually did remember. I hate to keep talking because I know I've talked a lot, but it was the first time I broke 50 point in the 100 fly was Terrier our freshman year. And I remember it's one of my favorite memories because I had Al videotape it, and I have the recording, and like if I'm in my bag, I will watch it because Mike and Al are like hyping me up the whole race. And I remember Kyle was right next to me, and Kyle like went real fast. Like, I think we went 1-2, he went 1, I went 2 in the heat. But I remember like I go to turn at the last wall, and I just hear Mike and Al go like, "This is it. This is where he does it. Like, this is where it goes. This is where it goes." And like I remember like touching the wall, and like you guys are going nuts, and like they pan back, and like I can see like the rest of the team's all fired up. Like honestly, that is like just because of the nostalgia of it. Like, and I finally broke that 50. Like that is really like up there for me.
Yeah. No, that's a sweet race. I remember that those Terrier meets too were like, those were exciting meets because like those were the mid-season marker for us. We got to throw on suits and like get into that championship like environment. That was like, I don't know, just a good prep meet for Atlantic 10s, 3 months later. So yeah, that's all really cool. I think what's nice to hear is too, like, some of your favorite moments are not only moments that you had yourself and you got to like embrace yourself, but then also like share with either teammates on a relay or like just, with other teammates sort of living, vicariously through like their race and being super excited for them. Like you said, Noah Witt, his freshman year going 146, like something where you're just like so proud for your teammate and like happy for them. I think that's just like the marker of like true excitement in like its purest form too, like not just something you accomplished, but that like, your teammate did, and just getting excited for a team win, or an individual performance or whatever it is really cool. And like when I think back to my favorite memories, I remember it was like, I don't know why this one sticks out. I just think of it was because it was like 2 such like great and like surprising swims for us. But I remember it was like sophomore year Atlantic 10 championships, and it was prelims of the 200 IM. And Casey, you were like in heat 1 or heat 2 because you didn't swim the 2 IM ever during the year. Like, your freshman year, your third event, like obviously you swam the 1 fly and 2 fly. That was a staple every year because you're a flyer, but like, you're still trying to figure out your third event. So freshman year is a 5 free, albeit you had a good 5 free. But then like your sophomore year, you were like, I want to get away from like, just like distance, like 5 free, like that sort of.
Couldn't handle it. I wasn't built like Chase, man. I couldn't handle it.
You weren't built like Chase, that's for sure. No, but I think that, then I don't know if did you swim another 2 IM like that entire year leading up to A10s, or was that the first one?
They had to have thrown me in it at some meet, but like I was swimming like crap because
you have to do like 1.
Yeah,
but
because it was the last event of all dual meets, so I had to swim to the 100 fly. So I'd swim the 100 fly. There'd be 5-minute warm down, and then I'd turn around and do the 2 IM. So I always sucked. Sucked.
Right. So you never were able to like really showcase like your true potential in it. But and also like when you got down to the taper meet of like A10s, you always threw down something substantially better than you did throughout like the entirety of the season. Maybe like the exception being Terrier. But anyways, you step up on the block, like one of the first couple heats, I'm sort of like nervous Nelly behind the blocks, whatever, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, let me watch Casey. And you just like go crazy and drop a 151 in like heat 1 or 2. And you're pumped up. Like you get out from, the pool deck and you're just like, doing your moves. You're just like pumped up, teammates are coming up to you. I'm like, just like pumped up from that race. And then when my race rolls around, I also go a 151 and I'm just like shell shocked at that time. I'm just like, what? Wait, how did I do that? Like I thought, 154 or 153 at best. And it was like one of those where, just like the surprise of the race when you look up at the scoreboard and you're just like, wait, I went that. And so I think, we probably both had those moments, and like to just experience both of those was like, I don't know, just super exciting. And I think I did beat you out into the last spot in the B final. I think I literally got the 16th spot. And I'm just mentioning that because the fact that those 151s didn't both make it into a B final was like kind of ridiculous, because I think that year it just happened to be a ridiculously fast year. But anyways, I just had to show my, dominance in the 2IM there. So
no, dude, you always had me. I had to look up. I forgot we went 51s. For some reason, I thought we went 52s that year, but no, I was 51-9.
Okay, so you were 51. Yeah, 100%. Okay, yeah, because I was like, there's no way. Yeah. But anyway, so that's one that sticks out. And then I think just the other performances that stick out for me are like, just like, yeah, watching, whoever it was swim fast. Like I remember Mike having his best meet like of his collegiate year or collegiate sort of like seasons, junior year, when you just like popped off in the 100 back and the 50 free, or just like all the relays and certainly like going the fastest 50 back and, UMass history. And then, yeah, just like any of like our teammates swims that just are like really exciting often would just like get me just as excited or even more so excited than, some of my own. And I think that we can all agree with that. So, and certainly like a team win, like whenever we beat BU or like our, sort of in conference rival, like Fordham. I remember beating Fordham. Like I remember like sophomore year, we went to Fordham. Like it was our first time actually being at Fordham's pool. And it came down to like, someone needing to step up in the very last event, which was like Diaz in the 2IM, because I think like the rest of us were shot and he did it. And like he, went crazy and like we all were swimming really well. And we ended up beating them like at their senior meet at their home pool. So like moments like those where it's like, just really special. But yeah, anyways, all very cool moments. And we'll start to wrap this up. I just want to ask, like, moving past swimming, obviously now we're, crazy to believe, but we're like 3 years removed from sort of like swimming and like our college time together. So yeah, just like where are you guys at now in your lives? Like where are you living? And just like, what are you doing for work? What are you doing for like in life? Like what hobbies are you into? Or just like if you're still involved in swimming, in any way, yeah. In what capacity are you involved in swimming? I know a lot of us, actually, probably all of us are no longer actively, swimming, but, yeah, I guess, Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So I'm currently in Boca, living the dream, living in paradise. I was lucky enough to move down here, find a job that I actually enjoy doing. And it's not like a waste of time. But yeah, I'm not swimming anymore. I'm still lifting, which I truly enjoy. But in that span of 3 years, I've picked up jujitsu, pretty close to getting my purple belt now, competing on weekends. But it's kind of that same thing of just I don't see it as like a job, like kind of like the way I saw swimming was at a certain point. So it's really nice to, pick up a skill and truly enjoy going to it. Like I try to go six times a week or something like that. But, when I'm there for that hour and a half, like I really want to be there. Like I'm happy. So it's just, taking the lessons that I learned from swimming, and there's a lot of them, like, especially you wouldn't think that swimming and jiu-jitsu really translate, but a lot of good jiu-jitsu guys were like are former divers, surprisingly former swimmers. So it's just kind of like being able to push past that governor that you have during practices kind of translates to jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I can't complain at all. The only thing I complain about is being away from you guys, so far away. But any opportunity that I can get to see your faces or talk to you guys on the phone, or even see you guys in person, I'll bite at the opportunity. So kind of that.
Yeah, I will 100% agree. That's why I just really wanted to be able to set this up once you sent the message. But I do have a question, like as far as like you said, sort of like being the governor of your own mind, like sort of having that governor, like you said, in swimming. I've heard that before, but like it is transferable to jiu-jitsu. Like I've heard other athletes talk about their transition from like swimming to jiu-jitsu, and it could be other sports too. But like, yeah, what like excites you so much? What has excited you like so much about just like that sport? Because I know you were really into just mixed martial arts and that whole scene, like our sort of junior and senior year. And you were the one who introduced me to like sort of watching UFC and like certain things. And I find it fascinating, especially because like the mindsets of a lot of these athletes sort of comparable to like, other serious, sports and like certainly swimming. So yeah, just like what excites you about it? And like, it could be in the training and the competition. Like, yeah.
I think it's just really like there's no other like combat sport that you could really go 100% and know that you could like do it again like 5 minutes later and not be hurt. You know what I mean? Like you do like kickboxing, you do boxing, you get hit enough times, you're not going to be able to do it the next day or whatever. Jiu-jitsu, you can go 100% whenever you want to, and just depending on who you go with and how spazzy they are, whatever reason. But I don't know. I've heard somebody say that it's high intensity problem solving while doing something physical. Like at the end of the day, you're just trying to not get choked out. You're not trying to get a limb snapped off, and you're looking at every single position as an opportunity to either move one step forward on an offensive level or one step back of just playing more defensively active and making sure that they don't, either pass guard or whatever. But it's just one of those things where it's like I'm happy that I'm getting good exercise from it, but the lessons and the skills that I'm learning are even cooler. So.
Yeah, it's very cool. And like when it comes to, because you've competed a few times, like is it a similar mindset to is it comparable to like the racing mindset, or like not at all, because it's going to be like a problem solving thing?
I can't say that I have the same mindset that I did in swimming, like the whole nonchalant, like making jokes. Like I'm still making jokes at a competition, but that whole feeling of confidence, it's different because what's at stake. You know what I mean? Like you can't, it's not like, hey, we go slow, the clock's just not adding up today. No, it's like, hey, that guy's ACL is torn, and it's like back to the drawing board. So it's definitely a lot more stakes than swimming, but the intensity does translate 100%. And I think it benefits, and I think especially with a foundation in swimming, anybody that goes into another sport, you have a better gas tank than 95% of all other athletes. Maybe 99%, but it does translate.
Yeah, absolutely. Stakes are way different. So I guess, you can't really gear up for a swim race like you could a jiu-jitsu match, in the sense where, you could get choked out or, a limb contorted. So yeah, stakes are definitely different, but I like what you said about, obviously the intensity and like the inner competitor, it's going to translate to any other sport that you do too. And certainly the skills that you learn from swimming, it can be transferable to that. So that's really cool. And Chase, what about you?
Yeah, I'm living in Omaha right now. My fiance, he's doing a surgical residency here. So my work, I got to be fully remote. So I got to move out here. Things have been pretty good. For work, I'm a audit associate at PwC. And then like working out wise, honestly, like I really developed like into a home gym. Like here we have like the full like squat rack setup, like the adjustable dumbbells, even like a Peloton now. So like I've been doing that. I found swimming honestly really difficult to get into without having like the team atmosphere that we had. I just think it was like we were like so blessed honestly with like the team that we had. And so it just makes it like really hard, I feel like, to self-motivate to like still be in the water without having like a coach over you, without having like the teammates to kind of make it worth it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it seems like I don't know, like, what would I say? It seems like a pattern that develops like post kind of collegiate swim experience and just like maybe a lifetime of swimming. You need a break. Like swimmers just need a break. Like even professionals who like step away sort of maybe prematurely, or like at some point that love and that drive for like the day-to-day grind of swimming just fades. And it's like, I need to take a step back, and maybe it'll come back. Maybe that like curiosity and like love will come back once I realize like, okay, stepping back, how much I miss it. But at the same time, sometimes it's just like, you can't replicate that team environment that you've gained from like, your high school or your club or even your college team, that like really ignites the flame to want to like push every single day and like go after a goal. So yeah, I think that's why a lot of swimmers just like start finding those different outlets, whether that's like jujitsu or just working out and staying focused in the gym, or I don't know, finding triathlete. Like I know triathlons are a huge sort of like transition point, or even running. Whatever it is, there's definitely outlets where swimmers need to like find themselves in, and that could be master swimming too. I mean, it depends on, how much you just have that drive still, but I just find that interesting. And so, I just wanted to like touch on that point, but cool. Yeah. Very cool. And Casey, what are you up to?
Same as Chase. I got engaged recently. So, my fiance and I were doing some wedding planning. So that's a lot of fun. And that's probably like the biggest thing that's happened. Well, definitely the biggest thing that's happened to me since I graduated. Work-wise, I'm living in just outside of DC, so I'm in Southern Maryland. I love the area. It's definitely a lot of fun. Fortunate to like Chase has come down a couple times, and we've been able to hang out. Next year, next 4th of July, we'll have to see if you and Mike can come, Seamus. But working for a marketing agency right now. It's cool. It's a small company. I think this and in my first job, I was kind of fortunate to be working with managers who are concerned like with professional development. So definitely trying to take advantage and learn as much as I can from those those people, and see where it takes me from there. Outside of work and the wedding planning, which to be honest, I'm not really pulling my weight at the moment. I got to step up. But I've been running, like you said. I've been trying to scratch that itch, like the competitive itch. I tried doing like pickup soccer, but people here are really good at soccer. There's a lot of people from overseas, so like that's all they do. So that wasn't a good fit for me. I tried picking up lacrosse again, and that was fun. Like the guys were a lot of fun, great group of people. But again, like Maryland's, this is a big area for lacrosse, so I kind of had to excuse myself to make sure I wasn't getting in the way. But lately I've been into running again, so trying to find that avenue. To like what you're saying about swimmers stepping away from swimming, and I think Chase brings up a good point where like it's something that we were doing and it all was worth it at the end of the day. And I think something we've been hitting on like repeatedly is that it was worth it because of the boys and because of the team, like not just the boys, right? Like the girls team too. Like we had a good relationship with the women's team. Like, but so one, it's hard to do it on your own, like Chase said, but two, it's not always accessible, right? Like if I had a pool that I could go swim at very easily, I would do it, right? Like if I had a pool at my apartment complex, I would probably do it a couple times, a week, maybe not every day, or like, train like we used to, but it's like, if I have to like make a trip over there, like if I want to get that cardio in, if I want to scratch that itch, like I'll just go for a run. And it suffices for now. I do think I'll probably end up being a master swimmer at some point, but I don't think I can escape that one, but we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe there's hope for me. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I mean, Hey, like you said, definitely accessibility is something too. Like if you have access to a pool that's like right next door, it could be different in terms of, how much you are getting back in the water and, feeling that out if it's something that you want to, just like fit into your routine or not. But yeah, I think, just finding an outlet, especially like post swim life is definitely an important thing, aside from just like what you're doing work wise and just like within your daily routine. I think it's cool that you guys like have all, I don't know, just like tried to at least explore different things and like find different options. Last question, are you guys all a fan of get out swims, and if so, do you have any favorite get out swim stories that stick in mind? Chase, I will start with you.
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of get out swims. I think they're really important for morale. As you were saying earlier, like those Saturday practices where we're just like completely burnt, like we just need something to look forward to. I feel like Russ and Sean specifically be able to like look at us sometimes as like a sad bunch and be like, all right, they need to get up on the block and somebody needs to do something. I don't remember like who it was specifically, but I really like the ones where you make somebody that like doesn't really do that type of event like get up and do the get out swim. So like I think it was Harry or Tony, I can't remember, just doing like 100 breast, where like neither of those guys like to swim breaststroke, and so it's like it's a time that's like more relatively attainable, but everybody's on board just trying to make it like as exciting as possible to watch like an event like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Getting someone up on the blocks to do an off event or something that is out of the ordinary definitely will get them going, and then everyone else behind them going too. So 100% agree. That's a good one. Casey, why don't you go next?
Has anybody said they're not fans of get out swims?
No. I think that's a universal. I need to stop asking, are you a fan of get out swims? Because it's just a yes.
Casey, I think you got to go devil's advocate and just now pull out a reason to hate get out.
Terrible. Awful.
I've never liked
we should be training more.
It teaches instant gratification. No. Obviously I'm a fan of get out swims. I never got picked to do one, which was probably a good thing, if we're being honest. But my favorite memory of a get out swim, similar to Chase, I can't remember who it was, but Sean had someone get up and do like 100 free. I can't remember. He was like, you got to go this time. I can't remember what the time was either, but kid gets up, does 100 free. We're all going nuts. Pool gets quiet, and Sean looks at his watch and he's like, 50.99, and everybody's going nuts. We're all like, yeah, we get out of practice. And Sean, I literally think it was the three of us standing next to him, or four of us standing next to him, and he turns and he shows us the watch, and it was like 53 or like 52, like wasn't even close to the goal time at all. And Sean just wanted like to get out of there. So I think it's funny that coaches, that was kind of what clicked for me. Coaches do that because they want to be done too. So
Sean would call it a suspicious amount of nines whenever during get out.
A lot of 9-9s.
Gotta respect the hustle. He played the hits.
I'm definitely a big fan, big advocate of get out swims, especially coming as a sprinter. Less yards, less practice is an A in my book. But off the top of my head, anytime somebody like either a Tony or a Heath would do a get out swim, I remember I'd personally like get up. I'd be like, this, we can all get after this. We want this. We want to get out of here.
Mike would always be behind the blocks, like hyping up whoever was going into the get out swim to be like, you need to do this.
Mike was rubbing the shoulders.
Exactly. I'm not going to call it peer pressure, but there was definitely some like, hey, bud, if we don't get this, we're going to have problems. But we never had any problems, which is nice. So
nice. Yeah. When it comes to the get out swim, you better not screw it up. And whether that's up to you or the coach, we'll leave it up to one or the other. But hopefully, more times than not, it's up to the swimmer, and they can successfully rise to the challenge. But yeah, get out swims are great. I think those are all great stories. I have nothing to add. And yeah, I think just overall, it's been just fun catching up with all you guys. I have tons of love and just like fond memories of like us, just being at UMass together and having our shared experiences. And yeah, it's just fun to unpack, just like a lifelong journey of swimming in our sport that is just like, yeah, it's really cool to be able to come back and like share this stuff. So like Mike said, any opportunity, whether it's through Zoom or by phone or text or just in person, obviously would be the best, but jump at that opportunity to be able to reconnect with you guys. So anything else that you want to add, definitely go ahead. But otherwise, I think we touched on a lot and it's been really fun.
If you listen to this long in the podcast, you're a real sicko. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. But we're going for pushing over 2 hours here. So
if you're still listening,
we're pushing Rogan numbers.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to Rogan level soon at this point.
Exactly. You're gonna have to pull that up, Jamie.
Analytics are gonna be like,
yeah, 3-minute mark.
They're still talking about the guy that broke into their house.
It's like, I'm not interested. I came to learn about swimming, and all you guys are talking about is everything but swimming. Oh god.
But thanks for having us on, Seamus. It's been a lot of fun to reconnect with you guys, and honestly, appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, guys. We'll touch base soon.
All right, brother.